以前资源非常的丰厚。
我们从来没有思考鱼从哪里来，或者是鱼什么时候会再生。
他们刚是有东西，我怎么等见？
体验经济是一个非常好的出路，所以它创造的价值是乘数的价值。
Water is the source of life. It flows within us and is all around us. Over 70% of the Earth is covered by oceans, and whatever affects the oceans affects everything on this planet. As the dominant species on Earth, humans continue to proliferate. We have adopted lifestyles that put immense pressure on our precious oceans. The world needs sustainable solutions for maintaining ocean health, and we need them now. Hi, my name is Aziz Muller, a marine biologist from the UK who has travelled around the world studying coral reefs and coral reproduction. I came to Taiwan to do research at the National Academy Academia Sinica, but before long, I fell in love with the people, the culture, and of course the majestic ocean surrounding this island. Our Ocean is a docu-series focusing on the people of Taiwan and the progress as well as challenges they face in protecting the sea all around us. We'll explore some of the difficulties that Taiwan is facing in keeping our ocean healthy, along with some innovative ways that people here are working to protect it. All of this from the beautiful island of Taiwan. On planet Earth, the ocean is the source of life. And unsurprisingly for many, it is the major source of our livelihoods. As of 2023, more than 60% of the global population live in coastal towns and cities, and 80% of world trade happens on the ocean. For island nations surrounded by the ocean, fishing is of disproportionate importance for their economies, and Taiwan is of no exception. Taiwan's fishing industry ranks among the top 20 in the world. In 2021, Taiwan produced 976,000 metric tons of fish products, worth an estimated 6.6 billion NT dollars. But this boom in the fishing industry has exacted a costly price from the ocean. Overfishing as well as illegal fishing have damaged the marine environment and caused serious fish depletion. When compounded with the effects of climate change, the fishing industry has put the marine ecosystems of Taiwan in serious jeopardy. So, we must ask ourselves, is there a more sustainable way for the fishing industry to move forward? We are now on the small island of Penghu, part of the Penghu archipelago, an island chain with over 90 uninhabited islands. Once listed in Lonely Planet as a top 10 secret island to visit, Penghu is a uniquely beautiful place. Straddling temperate and tropical zones, the unique geography of Penghu creates a huge amount of biodiversity in marine life and coral reefs. On an island like Penghu, people depend on the ocean. With 67 harbours, it has more harbours per capita than anywhere in Taiwan. But the ocean can no longer be the boundless, bottomless provider that it once was. Pollution, overfishing, and illegal fishing, as well as climate change, are rapidly depleting the fish population here.
这边的鱼大概在前20分钟还是10几分钟都还在海里面哦，所以上来保证都是活的。新手要挑鱼，这边是首选。 因为不用技术。在我国小10岁，10岁左右，那时候的资源非常的丰厚，以我小朋友年纪去捕鱼，我就可以维持一个家庭的生活。那等到我高中那时候，已经开始慢慢走下坡了。
但以前的马粪海胆，他们说他们是多到人不吃，然后拿来做肥料。以前可以多到拿来当肥料，然后可是现在是只要开采季一开始，基本上你在海边是一颗都看不到。
科技太发达，捕鱼的技术太好了，以后还没有长大他就捕了。
对啦，物件都是伊少啦，但物讲少都是，拢无话拢我讲我等性是。
就我小时候的印象，有一半的渔业人口，民国80年的时候应该还有4万多，将近5万。可是到了90年的时候，应该差不多只剩下30%，那现在就更少，可能只有10%几。
Problems associated with fisheries don't just exist in Penghu. Nearly 90% of global marine stocks are now exploited or overfished, and 30% of those stocks have been depleted to unsustainable levels. According to Japan's National Fisheries Agency, the total number of sorry fish caught outside the US and Canada in 2019 was 191,000 metric tons, a decrease of 60% from the previous year. In the year 2015, over 13 million tons of fish were caught worldwide. But among those fish caught near China, over 30% were either too small or diverse to be used as food. Declining fish populations are a global problem, but current laws and regulations are not working.
目前国际上公认最有效的保育政策就是划设渔业资源保护区。那最严谨的部分是像东沙群岛那样，是完全禁止进入跟影响。那这个范围你划设的越大，对渔民来说受到的冲击就越大，他们会觉得自己的生计受到影响。
全世界的海洋保护在公海地区保护大约只有1%而已，所以这面积其实非常非常的小。那整个海洋资源面临的问题最大的其实就是讲的是生物多样性。鲨鱼一年在公海上面被捕捞数量超过1亿只，可是不只是这1亿只鲨鱼被抓走还有超过90%的鱼类，它其实都面临了像是过度捕捞的风险。
For a lot of marine biologists, it's easy to have a contentious relationship with the fishing industry. Like taxi drivers, they make a living off what they know best. And although the Taiwanese government has implemented a lot of new regulation to control the industry, enforcement of that regulation is difficult, and illegal fishing is rampant in these waters. There's no denying that fishermen have every right to make a living of what they do, but can we find some middle ground to find a more sustainable future for the industry?
我们种苗场从2008年的时候开始实验，在人工的环境下养殖珊瑚。那在2012年的时候呢，就是开始往海里面做实验。
Corals are one of the most important habitats for marine biodiversity. Over 32% of all marine life rely on coral reefs to survive. Economic activities associated with coral reefs is estimated to be around $30 billion. So if the coral dies, all of that goes up in smoke too.
所以渔业资源枯竭的原因，其实除了过渔之外呢，大概50%以上的原因，它可以归咎于我们沿近岸珊瑚这个生态系被破坏。因为珊瑚它是很多海洋生物它的产房，或甚至是栖息地。产房被破坏，那很多海洋生物它其实无法进行繁衍的这个行为。那渔业资源降低或者减少，这个是必然的趋势。 这是我们珊瑚富裕下面的那个三角移植砖，那个珊瑚珠它会放在那个老古石的基座上，种在这个孔洞上面。我们会先把这个移植砖投到海里面，然后潜水员会再带着珊瑚珠下去作业。中间中空的部分呢，它会对准海流通过的方向。巨基型的海洋生物，它们就会躲藏在孔洞里面，旁边的珊瑚成长之后，它就会变成一个人工鱼礁的概念。6月到9月之间，我们都是有跟业者做合作。如果你是来做浮潜或是潜水的话，教练也会带着你去种下属于你自己的珊瑚，就是希望可以让他们不只是学习潜水，更学习如何去照顾这片海洋。
从一个地方永续的角度来看的话，不是说这个一定要把鱼拿来吃才能赚钱嘛。比如说夜钓小管好了，我今天一只小管在菜市场也许卖100块，煮成清蒸小管也许是200、300，但是我如果不要去吃它，夜钓小管一个人是收500，一艘船30个人就15000，如果跑2次就3万，所以它创造的价值是什么？是乘数的价值。
Queensland, Australia. The site of many a dream vacation, with pristine natural environments and breathtaking scenery above and below the surface of the ocean. To preserve the environment, local stakeholders from Queensland are working hard to make it sustainable as well as beautiful. At the Great Barrier Reef, for instance, one of Queensland's biggest attractions, every visitor must pay an environmental management charge. Everyone who enjoys it must also contribute so that the next generation has something to enjoy. In Taiwan, the Tourism Bureau is also looking to make the nation's first marine ecotourism zone in Penghu. Measures include restoring corals, limiting the number of daily visitors, and training local residents as tour guides, which will all help in a more sustainable vision for tourism in Taiwan. Penghu sits between temperate and tropical zones. This means the coral on the north side of the island is of completely different type than on the south. Although this creates a hotbed of biodiversity, it also makes conservation more challenging as different climates require different approaches. And that's not the only challenge facing Taiwan.
这个里面就是我们培育的珊瑚，因为澎湖它可以作业的水下作业的时间非常短暂，就是每年就是大概4到10月，一旦起东北季风就没有办法再作业，所以我们会利用大部分都是这些生长稍微比较快速一点点的珊瑚去做复育。在赤道就无风带那些国家，他们可以用悬挂式，那个对没有台风的国家来说可以这样做，但是台湾这台风来是绝对没有办法的。
Seasonal typhoons in this area of the world are a force to be reckoned with. And though many of Penghu's stone weirs have stood the test of time, many are still at risk of destruction from a direct hit. Only 600 or so remain on Earth, with Hawaii, Micronesia, Australia, and Finland all recording their historical use.
欢迎大家来参加我们石沪探索者的行程。那等一下呢，我们的行程呢也会去体验2个澎湖的古老的渔法，一个是抱墩，那另外一个呢是会来认识我们当地的一个石沪。
我们现在就算走进石沪里面了哦，你们有发现很可爱吗？然后大家可以看到这边有一个弯弯的构造，大家知道为什么要盖这样弯曲吗？
可以把鱼围起来。
对，就是因为鱼它就会沿着这样石块的排列的方式，然后游，然后这个勾起来的地方就会赶鱼群再往石沪里面跑，这样子。
在我小时候，一口食物可以养好多口人家呢。因为小时候都是，爸爸妈妈他们都会去海，我们去帮忙啊。秋天以后，一定会去寻那个护堤，看你有没有坏掉。坏掉了，我们就会去帮忙。现在整个大环境都改变了，尤其那个海的污染很严重，潮汐环境不好，像我们食物的现在功能已经没有了。
In Penghu today, there are still 574 of these structures standing. That's the highest concentration on Earth. Unfortunately, the modern fishing industry has no such use for these relics, and with the passage of time, they have been left crumbling and forgotten about. The mission to restore and preserve has been taken up by Yang Fuzi, who has returned to her home island of Penghu to set up the organization Isle Travel, to help us reconnect with the ocean.
因为食户它是一种被动式的渔法，今天就算鱼困境在这个食户里面，我们是可以选择可能比较大尾、已经成熟的渔获。那如果我们今天不来捕鱼，在涨潮之后，它也是可以很健康的离开。其实一开始刚回来，师傅他们或者是当地的人，或是户主，都会觉得，年轻人干嘛修这个？这个东西你修还又没有鱼，那你为什么要修？那你在修的过程中，你会看到很多变化。像例如对于这些传统师傅来说，他们一开始修会觉得，他就是来做工的。可是那个修的过程，可能会遇到一些学生或来体验的人，会称呼为他们叫老师。我觉得那样子可以看到他们对于这件事情开始有想要积极的投入的心态。
澎湖的食户很厉害，就是因为第一个，它除了数量很多之外，任何的形制也都有，基本上它是一种类似像地标跟文化，抓不太到鱼，但是它可以拿来玩啊。那透过这样子的一个导览解说跟体验，这个叫体验经济嘛，所以这个是一个非常好的出路。
After a long day of recreational activities in the ocean, there's nothing better than the taste of fresh seafood. Tourists continue to flock to Penghu to enjoy the island's delicacies. But how the seafood is collected and delivered is crucial in building a sustainable tourism industry.
这里是澎湖的第三鱼市场，然后你们看到这边非常多的鱼呢，其实是因为昨天天气非常好，澎湖的市场是非常的顺应的这个海的状况。因为你们现在看到的所有的渔船都是昨天晚上出海捕一个晚上的鱼，凌晨再把鱼带回来。
Fishday's founder, Wu Jiarong, takes visitors on a tour around the fish market. But she does not bring them here to buy fish. Rather, she's here to educate the visitors about them. She believes that in order to build a healthy relationship between humans and the ocean, one must start by recalibrating our mindset about consuming fish.
底拖网其实是目前比较不那么建议的一种渔法，它是连整个栖地都一起破坏，所以买的时候其实是大家都是有选择的。
我觉得供给跟需求是息息相关的，就一定是有需求，它才会有这么大的供给。海洋环境教育这件事情离大家的生活太遥远了，所以如果从你认识你吃进去的这些鱼，去慢慢的去认识这个海洋环境，就是一个很好的入门的方式，也是比较吸引人的方式。
挑海鲜，就如果我们以一个海洋资源永续的角度去看的话，主要第一个要看的是它的体长，因为我觉得我们不要去吃到那些小 baby， 让它有长大的机会跟繁衍后代的机会。这个季节开始就没有那么建议再吃土托跟买土托了，因为澎湖人其实知道土托过年的时候最肥，它肥是因为它接下来就要准备抱卵产卵了。如果这个时候还抓这么多土托，你就会发现明年过年价格又涨了，因为你没有让它生小孩的机会。对，我觉得大家应该都还蛮可以。
有其他事情啊？
其实除了鱼市场导览之外，有其他的游程，然后现在可能都会走往体验。然后体验的话，其实游客不太会在意那些产值，我要抓多少鱼，或者我要带多少东西回家，他们享受的是那个过程。对这些有兴趣的人，其实他们会愿意付更高的价格。那我觉得我们透过这个食鱼教育过程，或是我们这些永续海鲜的理念，因为越来越多人知道，然后会有一点压力去迫使政府去更积极的去管理这个渔业，
这就是有点没有办法避免的事情。
Suogang Fishing Port is a supposed secret spot for snorkeling in Penghu. The sea there is clear and blue as sky. In 2016, this not-so-secret spot hosted 30,000 snorkelers. In 2020, with domestic tourism at a high due to COVID-related travel restrictions, it hosted 60,000 snorkelers. Lucky for us, Suogang Fishing Port is actually completely man-made. It is Taiwan's first underwater garden made from artificial coral and an ecotourism hotspot in Taiwan.
你海洋生态有在改变，然后你有行销议题，产业界跟地方就会看到，那就会吸引不同的一些有想法的人进来。进来之后，当然就是形成一个产业聚落。我们也很容易介绍给包含台湾本岛或是世界各地。我们是要跟他讲说，其实是有机会的，不是没有机会。
来看看哦。哎，有抓到一只石斑，对，有抓到一只石斑，跟一只大石蟹。来，
大家都说可能台湾没有海洋文化，只有海鲜文化，但大家可以来到这边的话，是直接走进捕鱼的现场。那我觉得那个东西是会让他有感觉，知道说，哎，这个鱼到底是怎么样从何而来，到他之前的餐桌上面，他可以开始选择用比较友善的语法的渔获来去料理。
好像发现原来吃鱼有很多要注意的细节，才能够去延续渔业的这个永续性，
让我更加觉得可以吃一些比较便宜，然后数量比较多，然后或者是就是在地当季的鱼。
因为我是做旅游业的啦，观光客也都会问我，说实在，我之前我都没办法回答。像这样的话，我就可以好好的介绍，我也可以就是跟他们讲说。可以的话，尽量不要吃珊瑚礁、底拖网抓的鱼。
然后这可能是小一点的。
园艺观光它其实有几个比较重要的精神，除了资源的永续，还包括文化的永续。那像年年有春也好，或者是离岛出走也好，在渔村的发展上面，其实是扮演非常重要的角色。对，因为他们从原本的猎捕，然后带到一种转型，就是走到文化跟观光这一块。我觉得这样子的模式是可以成为典范，是非常好的。
全世界其实慢慢的现在开始去盛行这样的一个旅游方式，就是我们对在地的环境影响是最小的，但是我们同时可以有最深的体验。这样的过程中，其实可以慢慢的去让整个生态系统是复苏，同时维持当地人的生计。
In Penghu, we've seen ways to transform an island that once relied heavily on the fishing industry. Coral restoration, stoneware tours, and fishery education are just some of the methods used. Providing a different source of income for locals, they are actively being more conscious about sustainable natural resources. The tourism industry has gradually accepted that along with long-term economic growth comes environmental protection, resource management, and cultural preservation. Penghu is a great example of how sustainable practices actually benefit tourism. Both tourists and the ocean benefit from a more diverse array of activities in a cleaner and healthier environment. If more places around the world adopted such practices, we might have a chance to safeguard our oceans for future generations. Join us next time as we continue to explore the ways in which the people of Taiwan are trying their best to keep the oceans healthy. I'm Dr. Aziz Muller, sending you all the best from the island of Taiwan.